If there's one club which sums up the free-spending football ecosystem of the 2010s, it's Paris Saint-Germain. With just 2 titles in their then 40-year history, the French team turned themselves into the biggest side in the country with the simple application of millions of euros. But despite the open checkbook, PSG never converted their domestic power into international success, and as the squad has improved into one good enough to compete on all fronts, the focus has shifted from ramming the clubhouse full of stars to finding a coach able to marshal them into a coherent whole. Of course, it helps when you can sign Lionel Messi, Gianluigi Donnarumma and Sergio Ramos on free transfers, but having spent an average of £118 million per summer in the first 3 years after their Qatari takeover, PSG have averaged £72 million over the last 3, but they've made huge strides in the dugout. After Carlo Ancelotti left the Parc des Princes in 2013, it would take until 2018 for another top tactician to join the side, in the form of Thomas Tuchel. But he was followed by Mauricio Pochettino, a former PSG captain who had turned Tottenham into an attractive and dangerous team, carrying them to a Champions League final and second place in the Premier League at their peak. But Poch's return to the French capital has not been the perfect union we might have expected. In his first half season, he was beaten to the title by Lille, and while that could be blamed on a discordant dressing room, he has yet to turn PSG's troupe of superstars into a distinctive or particularly fun side, while the addition of Messi seems to have made the attack more disjointed, not less, sparking rumours both in the summer and after the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo that the coach would have considered a Spurs return. So what, if anything, is going wrong? Have PSG made a mistake with Pochettino, and what can we expect from them over the rest of the season? Today on EFD, we're digging into the Parisians to find out. Clearly, losing out on a title last season was not all Pochettino's fault, but he doesn't escape blame entirely. The Argentinian took over in January, with PSG 1 point off the top after 4 losses in 17, and Poch lost another 4 games over the course of the 21 he managed during the run-in, meaning PSG ended the campaign in exactly the same position, 1 point off champions Lille. Not only did he fail to overcome such a tiny gap, but on Pochettino's watch the team stats actually got worse, with goals scored sinking very slightly from 2.3 a game to 2.2, but the defence significantly dropping off from an insane 0.6 goals allowed each match to 0.9. So does that mean the concern is warranted? Well, yes and no. It's important to recognise that for all the hand-wringing about their form and style, PSG are virtual locks for the title. This season they've lost 1 and drawn 1 of their 12 games so far to sit on 31 points after 12 match weeks, while in Europe they made a huge statement with a 2-0 victory over Pep's Man City in the Champions League, meaning that now only Klopp and Mourinho have beaten Guardiola more often than Poch. But when success is expected, even victories can come accompanied by red flags, and there are some flying at the Parc des Princes. Right now, in league play, the team is averaging roughly 1.8 xG per game and 0.9 xG against, which is unsurprisingly excellent and more than worthy of a title winner. But that means that their xG difference per game, how much they outplay opponents by on average, is just under 0.9. Clearly, that's far from bad, but it only ranks 6th in Europe and more worryingly 2nd in France to a Nice side managed by Christophe Galtier, who coached Lille to triumph in May. And when you take a longer term view, it's even more troubling, representing the first time since XG data began in 2014 that the club has sunk beneath +1 XG per 90. Given the incredible talent hoovering up wages, that's a little disappointing, but while you may think you know what's going on, you might be wrong. Commentary on Poch's time in Paris has understandably suggested that the front 3 of Mbappe, Neymar and Messi lacks the work rate to play Poch ball, but there's little evidence to suggest that's actually true. At the time of writing, the Parisians make a defensive action for every 8.7 passes their opponents complete. That's 3rd in France and not a significant decrease on the 7.4 PPDA Spurs put up in 2016-17 when they came in 2nd in the Prem. And while PSG was certainly outplayed for significant stretches of that win over City back in October, it's hard to put that down to a lack of pressing, as they made 152 pressures across the 90 minutes to City's 150, with Messi closing down as often as Phil Foden and Jack Grealish, and Neymar doing so more than every City player except for Rodri. In fact, the drop-off has almost all come on the attacking end. Under Tuchel in 2019-20, when PSG reached the CL final, opponents got into their final third 3.7 times a game, exactly the same as this season. But while the team then got into the final third themselves 12 times a game, that's now down to 9.8. And as a consequence, they've lost nearly a whole expected goal from their attack each match. With 3 human cheat codes in the front line, that's surprising and confusing. So what exactly is happening with Leo Messi? If PSG's problems have been slightly overblown, Messi's are perhaps underreported. Having arrived in Paris unfit and bruised by a painful departure from his boyhood club, the Argentinian was forgiven a bumpy start to life outside Barcelona. But a signature strike from the edge of the box against Manchester City was expected to blow off the cobwebs and see the GOAT begin to dominate France in the way he did Spain, an expectation that is yet to be realised. So far, Messi has bagged 3-3 in the Champions League but has looked out of sorts in Ligue 1, failing to score or assist in 5 appearances. In itself, that wouldn't be enough to worry us. Messi went 909 minutes without netting in open play in the autumn of 2020, before scoring 28 over the rest of the season. But this time his underlying numbers don't breed the same confidence as they did in the past. Of course, they're not bad. Right now, the 34-year-old is taking over 4 shots a game, good for 11th across Europe's top 5 leagues, and they're coming from an average distance of 18.5 yards out, his closest since 2017. But that's largely the end of the good news. Those shots are down from over 5 last year, but there's no compensation on the creative side, with 1.6 key passes per 90, by far the lowest of Messi's career. And that means that altogether, he's putting up 0.6 expected goals and assists each match. Again, not terrible, ranking alongside Aubameyang and Bruno Fernandes this term, but down from about 1 xG per 90 last year, which itself was his worst output since 2014. This decline in front of goal is especially worrying, given that Messi is doing less in build-up. With a weaker league and a better team around him, we predicted that he'd do less ball progression, but going from 8 passes into the final third each game to 5 is a major slump, and he's also dropped from over 4 dribbles per 90 to 2.5, with a lower success rate too. He's passing and dribbling into the penalty area less, and taking fewer touches high up the pitch as well. In fact, the only improvements have come in his pressing and tackling, with twice as many defensive actions per 90 as he registered over the last half-decade at Barca. But frankly, that's grasping at straws, and you don't sign Messi because he works hard off the ball. He's not the only signing to have endured a rough maiden campaign so far. Though Liverpool fans routinely claimed that Gini Wijnaldum's unimpressive stats were due to lack of ego and a limited role on Merseyside, Pochettino has failed to ignite the Dutchman, the former PSV midfielder completing fewer passes, balls into the final third, pressures and dribbles at his new club, and with no compensating increase in defensive output. And Sergio Ramos has fared even worse, without a minute on the field to date and rumours swirling that PSG are looking for a way to rescind his contract. At least the coach can't take the blame there, but Pochettino was brought in to raise the side's ceiling, and given the tools to do so. If the team continues to get worse, it's hard to see the argument for keeping the man in charge. So how bad are things likely to get? Well, as we've explained, PSG have one hand on the league title already, with their 7-point lead meaning they can afford to be outplayed by their rivals over the remaining 2/3 of the season and still come away with an 8th title in 10 years. But they'll need to be more convincing in doing so. Though they're yet to be bettered on expected goals in a league unmatched this term, drawing blanks against Rennes and Marseille did not go over well with fans used to dominance, while even the victories over Lyon and Angers required controversial penalties to secure the points. And as everyone knows, the true test for a PSG manager is the Champions League, and there the picture is muddier. The Man City win saw the away side hit the woodwork twice, have more possession, and take 18 shots to PSG's 6 at the Parc des Princes. The RB Leipzig victory required the French outfit to come from behind after brainless defending gave the Germans a 2-1 lead. And the trip to Club Brugge was perhaps the most embarrassing of all, as Poch's team was lucky to escape with a point against a European minnow. Shockingly, after those 3 games, only 4 clubs in the Champions League had conceded more shots than the Parisians: Sheriff Tiraspol, Milan, Malmo and Besiktas. Unless Pochettino finds a way to improve that, the luck won't hold, and PSG are unlikely to make it past the quarter-finals. And if he can't deliver on the international stage, something, after all, he did with Tottenham, his stay in Paris will be short-lived. So that's our take on the Pochettino situation at PSG, but what do you think is going wrong, if anything? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.